If you're new here, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. It only takes a second, but it gives us the motivation to create more stories. So please like this video, and now let's begin the story. I never imagined I would find myself in this situation, sharing a story I never thought would be mine. I was the kind of woman who believed in love, in marriage, in the vows we take before our families and the world. I believed in a loyalty that should never waver, no matter the temptations life throws in our path. And yet here I am, unraveling the truth of how everything changed, how I changed, and how the boundaries I once thought unbreakable blurred into something I never expected. My name is Lauren. I have been married to Josh for 7 years. We met in college, one of those love stories that felt straight out of a novel. He was charming, intelligent, and kind, in ways that made me feel like I had found something rare and precious. We built a life together, one that looked perfect from the outside. A home in a quiet suburban neighborhood, careers that kept us busy but fulfilled, and a close-knit group of friends who felt like family. Among those friends was Noah. Noah had been a part of Josh's life long before I entered the picture. They had been best friends since high school, inseparable in ways that made me respect their bond. When I married Josh, I gained Noah as an extension of our life. He was always around, weekend cookouts, game nights, even quiet dinners where he would show up unexpectedly just to chat. I liked him, but he was always Josh's friend first. That was the line I never thought would be crossed. It started subtly, so subtly that I didn't even realize when the first shift happened. Maybe it was the way Noah listened to me when I spoke, his eyes holding onto my words longer than they should have. Maybe it was the way he noticed things, how I changed my hairstyle, how I looked tired after a long week, how I laughed less than I used to. Josh was a good husband, but he was busy. His work demanded long hours, and when he was home, he was often too exhausted to notice the little thing. I never held it against him. That was life. That was marriage. But Noah noticed. The first time I really felt something stir inside me was on an evening that should have been ordinary. Josh was out of town for work, and Noah had stopped by to return a book he had borrowed. I invited him in for a quick cup of coffee, thinking nothing of it. We sat in the living room, talking about everything and nothing, the way old friends do. But there was something different in the air that night, an unspoken tension that neither of us acknowledged, but both of us felt. It was the way his eyes lingered on me, the way he listened as if my words were the most important thing in the world. It was the way he laughed at my jokes, the kind of laughter that felt warm and genuine. And it was the way he said my name softly, as if it carried a meaning he hadn't realized before. It was the first time in a long time that I felt truly seen. I told myself I was imagining things, that it was nothing, that Noah was simply a good friend who cared. But as the days passed, I started noticing more, the way his presence made my heart beat a little faster, the way I looked forward to his texts, the way I found myself thinking about him when he wasn't around. It was dangerous and I knew it, but I didn't stop. I should have stepped back. As weeks went by, our interactions became more charged. A brush of hands when passing a coffee mug, a look that lingered too long, a moment of silence that spoke louder than words. The guilt crept in, slow but persistent, whispering that I was playing with fire. And yet, I didn't walk away. Not yet. One evening, Josh was working late, and Noah stopped by again. This time, there was no borrowed book, no real reason, just an excuse to check in. We sat on the couch, the room dimly lit, the air thick with something unspoken. My heart pounded in my chest as he reached for my hand, hesitating, searching my face for permission. In that moment, I had a choice. I could step away, end whatever this was before it became something more, or I could let it happen. I pulled my hand back, breaking the moment, breaking the spell. "Noah," I whispered, my voice barely steady. "We can't." He nodded, exhaling slowly. "I know," he said. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything that could have been, but never would be. Finally, he stood up, offering me a sad smile. I should go. I watched him walk out the door, knowing that whatever had been building between us had to end. I loved Josh. I had chosen him, and I would choose him again. But as I sat there, alone in the quiet house, I couldn't ignore the truth. I had come closer to the edge than I ever thought possible. Some lines, once blurred, can never be unseen, and some temptations, once felt, never fully disappear. I should have created distance, but instead I let it continue, convincing myself that there was no harm in it. As long as nothing was said, as long as nothing was done, then it wasn't real. But emotions don't follow logic. They grow in the spaces we don't guard, in the moments we let linger longer than they should. And that's exactly what happened. One evening, Josh had invited Noah over to watch a game. It was one of their traditions, something they had done for years. I was in the kitchen preparing snacks when Noah walked in. For a brief moment, it was just the two of us, the sound of the television murmuring in the background. He leaned against the counter watching me, and for a second, neither of us spoke. Then he broke the silence, his voice quieter than usual. "You're different lately." I looked up at him, forcing a small smile. "Different how?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "I don't know, just something." I wanted to laugh it off, to brush it away, but the way he looked at me made my breath catch. There was something in his expression that mirrored everything I had been feeling but had been too afraid to acknowledge. I turned away, focusing on the tray in front of me, trying to steady myself. Josh called from the living room, breaking whatever moment had just passed. Noah stepped back, giving me space, and I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. But in that moment, I knew this was more than just a passing thought. Something was happening between us, something neither of us had spoken aloud, but both of us felt. Over the next few weeks, everything seemed to shift. I found myself thinking about Noah more than I should have, replaying our conversations in my mind, analyzing the way he looked at me, the way he spoke to me. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was dangerous. But I also knew that something undeniable was growing between us. One evening, when Josh was working late, Noah texted me. It was simple, just a question about something trivial, but my heart raced when I saw his name on my phone. We ended up texting back and forth for hours, our conversation moving from casual to something deeper, something unspoken but understood. He made me laugh, made me feel light in a way I hadn't in a long time. And when he finally said goodnight, I stared at my phone for a long time. knowing that I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't take back. I wish I could say I made the right choice then, that I stepped away before it went too far. But the truth is, emotions are rarely that simple. I was caught in something I didn't fully understand, something that made me feel alive in a way that both thrilled and terrified me. And that was only the beginning. I wish I could say that I walked away after that night, that I saw the danger in the path I was treading and turned back before it was too late. But the truth is, I didn't. I told myself it was harmless, that nothing had really happened. A few texts, a lingering glance, a moment in the kitchen that we both ignored the next time we saw each other. That's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew better. I started looking forward to seeing Noah in a way that made my stomach twist with guilt. It wasn't just that he noticed me, it was that he saw me. He saw the parts of me that had started to fade in the routine of my marriage. Josh was a good husband, but he was busy. His mind was always occupied with work, responsibilities, the endless list of things that needed to be done. I never blamed him for that. Life was demanding and marriage wasn't always exciting. But with Noah, it felt different. With him, I felt seen. I wasn't just a wife, a partner, a woman balancing a career and a home. I was someone worth noticing, someone worth listening to, and that realization was intoxicating. I should have pulled away then. I should have reminded myself of my vows, of my love for Josh. But instead, I let myself sink deeper, one small step at a time, until I was standing at the edge of something I wasn't sure I had the strength to walk away from. I felt like I was more than just a wife, more than just the person who kept things running while Josh was away. I tried to act normal when we were all together, but I could feel the shift happening. I could feel it in the way Noah and I would catch each other's eyes across the room, in the way our conversations carried a different kind of weight, in the way I started dressing with just a little more care when I knew he would be around. These were small things, things that could be excused, but I knew what they meant. One evening, Josh invited Noah over again. It was just like any other night, just the three of us. I made dinner, the two of them talked about work and sports, and for a while I convinced myself that nothing had changed. But as the night went on, I started to feel the weight of what was happening. Every time Noah laughed at something I said, every time his gaze lingered a little too long, I felt the unspoken tension building. At one point, I got up to clear the table, and Noah followed me into the kitchen. It wasn't unusual, he had always been the type to help, but when I turned to take a plate from him, our hands brushed. It was nothing, a second, a moment, but it felt like everything. I looked up at him, and for the first time, I saw the conflict in his eyes, the same conflict I had been feeling. We were standing too close, the air between us heavy with something we hadn't yet named. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. Josh called from the living room, oblivious to what was happening just a few feet away. Noah took a step back, exhaling slowly. "I should go," he murmured. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. That night, as I lay in bed beside my husband, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that moment in the kitchen, about the way Noah had looked at me, about the way I had felt standing so close to him. Guilt pressed down on me, but it wasn't enough to erase what I knew deep down. I wanted more. A few days later, Noah texted me. It was nothing significant, just a simple message about something casual, but I knew what it meant. I stared at the screen for a long time before I replied. I told myself it was innocent, that we were just friends, that I wasn't doing anything wrong. But even as I typed out my response, I knew that wasn't entirely true. Our conversations became more frequent. At first, it was just small things, inside jokes, random thoughts throughout the day. But slowly, they grew into something deeper. We started talking about things we never had before, about life, about happiness, about the things we wanted but didn't have. He told me about his struggles, about how he felt like he was always standing in Josh's shadow, and I told him things I had never admitted to anyone. How sometimes, even in a happy marriage, you could feel alone. I told myself we were just talking, that there was no harm in words, but words have a way of building something dangerous. They create a space, a world separate from reality, where emotions grow unchecked. And that's exactly what happened. One afternoon, Noah asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. It wasn't unusual, we had spent time together before, but this time felt different. This time there was an unspoken understanding between us. I hesitated before agreeing, knowing that I was making a choice I couldn't take back. When I arrived at the cafe, he was already there, waiting for me. He smiled when he saw me, but there was something else in his expression. Something hesitant, something unsure. We sat down, and for a while we talked like we always had, but beneath the words, beneath the laughter, there was an unspoken tension. A line we hadn't yet crossed, but one we were dangerously close to stepping over. We pretended everything was normal. We talked like we always did, about everyday things, about nothing at all. But then the conversation fell quiet, and he looked at me in a way that made my heart race. "I don't know if this is a good idea," Noah said finally. I swallowed hard. "Then why are we here?" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." My breath caught in my throat. Hearing the words out loud made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. It wasn't just me, he felt it too. I should have ended it then. I should have walked away, but instead, I whispered the truth I had been too afraid to admit. "I can't stop thinking about you either." For a long moment, we just sat there, the weight of our confession pressing down on us. There was no going back now. We had crossed a line, even if we hadn't touched, even if we hadn't done anything beyond words, because sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't the action, it's the intention. I left the cafe that day knowing my life was about to change, that I had set something in motion I might not be able to stop. But the thing about emotions is that once they start, they don't just go away, and I was about to learn just how much I was willing to risk for something that had already gone too far. I wish I could say that after that day I came to my senses, that I saw how close I was to ruining everything and made the choice to walk away before it was too late. But the truth is, once a line is crossed, even if only in words, it's nearly impossible to pretend it never happened. Noah and I had admitted the truth to each other. There was no more pretending that what we felt was harmless. And yet, Knowing that didn't stop us. If anything, it made everything more intense. We told ourselves we would be careful, that we would set boundaries, that we wouldn't let it become something that could hurt Josh. But those were just lies we told ourselves to justify what we were doing, because the truth was, we had already betrayed him, not physically, but in every other way that mattered. We started finding excuses to see each other alone, small moments stolen between our normal lives. A quick coffee when Josh was at work, a walk in the park where no one would question why we were together. And always, there was this tension between us, this unspoken knowledge that we were one step away from falling completely. But the thing about secrets is that they don't stay hidden forever. No matter how careful you think you are, the truth has a way of surfacing. I should have seen the warning signs, the way Josh started looking at me differently, as if he sensed something had shifted, the way he asked more questions about where I was, who I was with. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, that the guilt was making me imagine things. But then, one night, everything came crashing down. Josh had been working late more often than usual. It gave me more time to talk to Noah, to see him, even if it was just for a few minutes. That night, I was home alone when my phone buzzed with a message from Noah. "Noah, I need to see you. Can I come over?" I hesitated. It was reckless, more reckless than anything we had done before, but I wanted to see him, needed to. Josh could be home soon. "Noah, I'll only stay for a little while." I should have said no. I should have stopped it then, but instead, I found myself replying before I could think. "Okay." 15 minutes later, Noah was standing in my living room. He didn't sit down, and neither did I. We just stood there, the weight of everything between us pressing in. "I can't keep doing this," he said quietly. I swallowed hard. Neither can I. And yet there we were, still standing too close, still unable to walk away. He reached for my hand, just for a second, and I let him. It was the smallest touch, but it was enough to confirm that we were in too deep, enough to confirm that we were past the point of pretending this was something we could control. And then, before anything else could happen, before either of us could make another mistake, Josh walked in. The moment the door opened, time seemed to freeze. Josh's eyes moved between us, taking in the scene. Noah dropped my hand. I took a step back. But it didn't matter. I'll never forget the look on Josh's face. Not anger, not rage, just hurt. Deep, undeniable hurt. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavier than any words could have been. Then Josh let out a quiet breath and said, "How long?" His voice was calm, too calm. Noah and I exchanged a glance, and in that moment, I knew there was no point in lying. "It never," I started, but Josh shook his head. "I don't care if it never happened," he interrupted. "I care that it almost did." That was the moment I realized that sometimes betrayal isn't about what you do, it's about what you let yourself feel. Noah didn't say a word. He just looked at me one last time before nodding at Josh and walking out the door. Just like that, it was over. But for Josh and me, it was just the beginning of the fallout. For days, we barely spoke. He wasn't angry, not in the way I expected him to be. He didn't yell. didn't demand answers. He just withdrew, and in a way that hurt more than anything else could have. Finally, after nearly a week of silence, he sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where Noah and I had once shared glances that meant too much. "Do you love him?" The question hit me harder than I expected, because the truth was, I didn't know the answer. "Oh, I don't think so," I whispered. I think I swallowed hard. I think I just wanted to feel something different. Josh nodded slowly, as if he had already known that. "And do you still love me?" Tears burned in my eyes. "Yes." He was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, he sighed. "I don't know if that's enough." That was the moment I realized that love alone doesn't fix things. That sometimes, even if two people love each other, too much damage has been done. I wish I could say we worked through it, that we found a way to repair what had broken, but some cracks never fully heal. In the end, Josh didn't leave right away. We tried counseling, we tried to rebuild, but no matter how hard we tried, there was always something between us, something we couldn't erase. A year later, he told me he wanted a divorce, not out of anger, not out of resentment, just out of the quiet understanding that we were no longer the same people we had once been. Noah moved away shortly after. I never saw him again. And me, I spent a long time trying to understand how I'd let it happen, trying to forgive myself for the choices I had made. Some lessons in life come too late, some mistakes can't be undone. But if I've learned anything from all of this, it's that love is never enough on its own. It takes effort, attention, and above all, honesty. Not just with your partner, but with yourself. And I had learned that lesson the hardest way possible. If you're new here, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. It only takes a second, but it gives us the motivation to create more stories. So please like this video. And now, let's begin the story. I never imagined I would find myself in this situation. Growing up in a quiet coastal town, I dreamed of a simple, happy life. I married my high school sweetheart, Daniel, when we were both young and full of hope. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that was enough, or so I thought. Looking back now, I can see the signs of what was coming, but at the time, I never would have imagined it. I met Mr. Carter, our landlord, when Daniel and I first moved into the charming little cottage we rented. The house wasn't grand, but it had character. A small garden, a wraparound porch, and a backyard I absolutely adored. Daniel and I were excited about this new chapter in our lives. Mr. Carter, a man in his early 60s, had a warm smile and an easygoing demeanor. He would check in occasionally to make sure everything was all right with the house.